Good afternoon. My name is Charles X. White. This is Community Views and Solutions. October 5th, 2017, a Thursday. A Thursday that has come and about to be gone like many other Thursdays. But on this particular Thursday, in someone's life, maybe in your life, something special happened. Something different happened. And hopefully that something that was different or special was positive. Today, a lot of things that we have heard over the news for the last week or so gives us cause and pause to think about, what can I do? What can my neighbors do? What can my sorority, fraternity do to make a difference in a positive way in my neighborhood, in my community, or in the global society? We just witnessed and experienced a natural phenomenon with hurricanes and tropical storms. I was astounded to find out that in Port Arthur, Texas, the debris removal volume is as much as it could fill up 5 football fields 60 feet high in Port Arthur. Port Arthur is suffering from a challenge of maybe losing their city status and being redesignated as a rural community because people have left Port Arthur. The school districts enrollment is down because people left Port Arthur. So that's major. And then if you fast forward it to the shooting in Las Vegas, a man-made disaster. Both have a very traumatic impact, psychological, physical, in all kinds of ways, that it would give the nation or the world a chance to say, what's really going on and what should I be doing now? Now we have the phone number. I think they're going to put the phone number on the screen. And I want to be able to reach out to the audience and for you to call in. Do you have any hurricane stories, flooding stories, something that you can share with us that you went through, that you had to create a solution? And the phone number is 713-807-1794. Call in and let's see if we may be able to. One caller may call and find out that that call and that solution that caller advanced may help 5 to 55 people. We don't know. But we would enjoy listening at how you solved a problem, fixed a problem for someone else, or did something that was restorative to help someone that was in a crisis. Now, for that matter, I also need to say, we had a power-packed show lined up for you, interactive with videos on YouTube and news stories, and we were gonna just run through this and just dazzle you to death. Not literally, but we were gonna dazzle you with information, technology, and just pulling pieces together and weaving a web of information, interesting, captivating, and a little entertainment. But we had a computer crash with all of our graphics. And our engineer, Mark, did a yeoman's job, a superior job in switching studios to get us ready for this 2 o'clock show. So, sometimes when you call in, just call in and say, thank you, Mark, for being such a sharp guy. Because Mark is one of the best in the business as an engineer, technician, cameraman. He knows it all. So anyway, let's talk about a little bit about the hurricane. In the Houston area or in Texas, those who have somewhat of an insight on the business could speculate that there was a little friction, discourse going on. And let me tell you something about elected officials. Elected officials don't like to use words that are very descriptive in terms of, they always want to put a good face on something. But it looked like to me that there was a little discourse, and I'm trying to put as nice a face on it as I can, between the governor and the mayor, and then the county judge and the mayor. Now, they came out and said, no, we're all together in kumbaya. Don't believe that. It was something going on. If you notice, the governor said evacuate. Then Ed Emmett said, no, don't evacuate. Then the mayor followed in. They were having these press conferences together. Then you saw the mayor and okay, we don't have to make a lot about it, but I just want you to know there's a lot of positioning going on behind the scenes, and what you and I see on the camera is hell breaks loose behind the camera. And I bring that up to say this. I read parts of two different articles, and both articles talked about how Houston was unprepared. And when I read those articles, it did make me think a little bit that after Harvey, during Harvey, or during an incident like that, nobody is doing anything. So don't think that they're out swimming the waves or anything. No, they're not doing. Everybody is in some kind of secured shelter, waiting for the storm to pass by. Then they come out. Everybody does that. But what I noticed was that there was a lot of question about evacuate or not evacuate. If I remember correctly, the news feed said that 5 days out that the hurricane had a chance to come this way, one of the models. And seemed like one of the first things I heard, we didn't know which way the hurricane was going. I don't know if you heard that or not. Which way the hurricane is going, we don't know. We couldn't prepare. What people need to do is shelter in place. Some cities, and it's a judgment call. I mean, I'm not, because I might differ with the mayor or the county judge, I mean, nobody's going to lose a job over it. But could have been, seemingly to me, that voluntary evacuation was appropriate for those that had the wherewithal to evacuate. But I do want to call your attention to a series of events that happened in Houston and Washington that, to me, addresses what it appeared that the elected officials here wanted to focus on, as that they wanted to focus on the people doing what people normally do, more so than what government officials did not do. I thought that was a very neat trick, the way they did that. In this city, Houston, Mayor Lee P. Brown commissioned a study. And that study was for the special needs, to identify people with special needs during the time of a disaster. It doesn't have to be a hurricane, just a disaster. This study was done in 2002. It preceded before 211, which captured people names that had a medical problem or special needs or had a problem. And the survey in 2002 also captured those people, identified the people that did not want to get involved in any kind of politics, but they had a boat. They identified it on the survey. They had a saw, ATV, horse, or they had some kind of skill that dealt with ham radio or medical. 2002. In 2003, now this is after 9/11, 2001. From 2001 to 2003, the federal government came up with one of the most dynamic, fluid, comprehensive programs to address domestic or international catastrophes or terrorist attacks. 2003. It was called the National Incident Management System and the National Preparedness Framework or Guide. In that particular rollout of protocols, trainings, the whole thing, it was to unify professional first responders so that if you were a fireman in Houston and were dispatched to California, you could be dispatched to California and you could communicate because your training was exactly the same and the terminology was the same. One of the things they found out during 9/11 or even and before, that if a fireman had a radio and had certain codes, the police may not have that. So that was a barrier. That barrier had to be eliminated with a common language. So everyone that's in that field they have a common language, have common protocols, whether it's logistics, staging, the camps, whatever, it's common. You could go from one city, one state to the other and feel pretty much comfortable that you could perform at the same level you did in your home city. I know it might be boring to you, some of you, but we want to get it on the record. So this is in 2003. Then the federal government gave cities, states, universities, hospitals, anybody who was dealing with federal money, was involved with emergency disaster, they gave them from 2003 to 2007 as their first benchmark for training, tweaking the system, all of that, practices and drills, getting certain certifications. So now here we are in 2007. Now, anytime there's a disaster, there's a thing called an after-action plan, corrective action plan. They also call it a hot wash sometimes. These are think tanks so that we can get it right. Now, my area of service is with schools. I'm a school safety consultant. The school I'm with right now is in Port Arthur. So yeah, we have mitigation plans, training. We do so many drills a year, all of that. Now, one of the things that was clearly focused on when in 2003 under George Bush and Tom Ridge, I want you to hear me so well that I hope I can make the point. I hope I have not bored you with these intricate details or minute details on this topic. One of the central points that they focused on was that there is not enough personnel to address a natural disaster, terrorist attack. There are not enough police officers. There are not enough firemen. There are not enough employees with any state, federal, city, county government to address something that goes to catastrophic size. It's not enough. So in this statement and this priority, it's called National Priority 4.8. In this priority, in 2003, Tom Ridge said, and I'm paraphrasing, he said, we don't have enough personnel. The only logical resource or pool of people that we can reach out to are citizens. And citizens need to be trained and prepared so that they can augment in times of catastrophe. 2003. Now, to me, what stuck out, now some of you all saying, I don't understand what the hell he talking about, it don't matter, whatever. Yes, it does. You just don't know it. People, and when I saw Ed Emmett, Mayor Turner, and the news media just going on and on about they didn't know people would help people like this, neighbors helping neighbors. I was trying to figure out, what are they talking about? This is what happens every time. This has been happening ever since the flood of 1900 that was in Galveston, the flood that was in Houston in 1935, where the water was like 20 feet off the ground downtown Houston, 1935. Look it up. They got a newsreel on it. On the internet, just look up Houston flood 1935. Wait a minute. Then we have Koala. Then we had Ike, Rita. Oh, we had Katrina. And then in 2015, Milan, we had a big flood in Milan. Oh, don't forget Allison. What were the lessons learned through all of those floods? In 25 years, you ask every politician and every elected official that's been an elected official for 25 years, what did they put in place? What policy? And so here we are raving over a natural human response from people to help people. That's what we do. If you notice, the people were out helping people before the mass of first responders, professional first responders. I make a difference. Other people make a difference. It is well known in the business that the first responder is normally the person that's closest to the incident. That person is called an on-scene responder. But a lot of emphasis is put on the professional first responder, and it well should it be. But when you overkill it, to me, and on the professional first responder, when there's a protocol and a need to have citizens engaged. I've seen so many programs to engage citizens, and all of them had anywhere from 1 to 3 to 5 year shelf life. And from 1 to 3 to 5 years, they would be gone. In the school district business, they like slogans. Politicians like slogans. City government likes slogans. And really, it used to be a 5-year run, and now it's 1 to 3. They'll get a program, and if it's designed to end at 3 years. Because if all these programs that they have had before now, if any one of them were working, why didn't they stick with it? Why didn't they stick with it? Why did they have to always come up with a new slogan and a new program? Bill White had Hope 6. Mayor Turner got All Together, Whole Community. Before Hope 6, FEMA had CERT. After CERT, they had Whole Community. That was FEMA had that. None of those programs were applied in such a way that it was to be sustained. So now you always go back to square one to start over just because you or whoever's in the government seat, you want something with your name on it, your brand, to say what you did. But what about the citizens? Well, maybe enough on that. What's the number? Oh, yeah, the number is 713-807-1794. This is Community Views and Solutions. I'm Charles X. White, your host. And we are winging it today because, as I mentioned earlier, if you just tuned in, one of our graphic computers crashed. We had several excerpts from Harvey that we wanted to discuss and show you, and you have that as a physical optic so that it'll draw you into the conversation more. We also had some YouTube videos that explain certain things. And to kick it off, we had a couple of professors that were going to join us in a discussion that deals with what's next after Harvey. And for Houston, one of the number one questions about what's next: flooding, evacuation, drainage. Did you all know that the courts overruled Mayor Parker's draining fee and said the drainage fee was illegal, deceptive? The language on the ballot was deceptive, and the judge struck it down. But the city is still collecting drainage fee. As soon as Mayor Parker had so much money in the drainage fee, it was a dedicated fund. She started using it for anything else, whatever she wanted. So we have an election coming up in November, another one coming up in 2018. We need to talk about fixes, how-tos, and holding policymakers accountable for what they do and for what they don't do. I've seen it over the years. Politicians love to get the praise for something, but they don't want any blame about anything. They don't even want to be around it. I mean, it's like running from a wasp. You ever been in your backyard and the wasp nest and all the wasps jumped out of the wasp nest at the time? I mean, you was like Mr. Flash. You got out of there, hitting your head. You were doing everything to keep them off of you. You don't want them. You don't even want to hear them buzzing around. When you hear them buzzing around, you start slapping your face around your head to distract them. You don't want them nowhere near. That's what politicians do. Anything that that they are actually responsible for happening, but they don't want to be associated with. That's just, let's fix it. So yeah, the number if you want to call in and join us for this conversation, please do. Now, since I'm talking about politicians, here's some sample questions that we had as a recommendation to ask politicians. What legislation have you authored that brought jobs to your district? Dwight Morgan's talking about all kind of whatever. Anybody know how many people got jobs last year or this year? Why is it that jobs tend to go away from certain areas? What companies have moved into the district directly related to your efforts? Have you ever asked your elected official either one of these two questions? Just think about it. Name 10 companies that have moved into your district that was a direct result of your leadership. Now you think about an elected official that's been in office 10 years. That's one company a year. And let's just take away 2 years and say they had to learn something, 2-year learning curve. So it ought to be 8. So if you go to any elected official that's been in office 10 years or more and say how many companies was a direct result of you getting them to be in the district, how many jobs did it produce? What are the highest crime and health problems in your district? The reason I put that question down, that's my question now, the other ones weren't, but this one is mine, is because what have you done to make your neighborhood safe and healthy? What projects, meetings, memos, letters, public or private funding have you sent to your district? We don't have, these are some simple and basic questions that could lead to a healthier neighborhood and holding your elected official more accountable, but we just don't ask these questions in a way that we can bring pressure to bear to get them to produce. What is the total amount of funding that has been sent to your district, federal, state, city, or county, and what agencies received the funding to provide what services? There's a Civic Club president named Travis McGee for East Sunnyside Court in Biowa Estates. And I thought it was very intuitive of him to point out in a meeting with this particular District D council member, I think it was Wanda Adams. Politicians like to say how much money they brought to the district. And so at this particular meeting, it was said how much money was brought to Sunnyside. So Travis said, wait a minute, what part of Sunnyside are you speaking of? Because over here in Biowa Estates, we haven't seen a dime. So it's like they take one piece and spread it across the whole board. And then the appearance is that they've done a lot for a lot of people. But in reality, if you go 10 blocks north, south, east, or west in basically any black community, you're going to see a lot of strife. And that's by design. Because remember now, the Renaissance period, the golden age for black people working and paying taxes, in my view, could span 1940 to 1995, 97. So now if we were paying taxes at the same percentage that everyone else, and neighborhoods didn't get attended by those tax dollars, you have to say that's by design. That's the only way it's going to be that way, non-attentive. And there were monies put there for capital improvement, parks, pools, schools. Oh Lord, schools. Between District B and District D. So that's Jarvis Johnson. Who else was in District B? I can't even remember. But whoever was in District B and District D, those are the two districts that from 2002 to 2012, guess what? 77 schools closed. 55 of them were in the black community. And nobody said a word, not an elected official. Think about that. And when you get ready to move into a neighborhood, number one thing that people want to know about a neighborhood is how are the schools, how is the crime, and are there any grocery stores? And if you go in our neighborhood and ask those, there are no schools, few schools, no stores, and crime is high. I mean, you know, it's something how we can take the back seat and we don't collectively address it. And then our champion that we elect to office seems to have selective amnesia. Yeah, I mean, you know, if y'all want to call one of them and tell them to call in, you can do that. We can talk about it live on air. You know, we go WWF. What is it, WWF? WWW. Oh, that's www dot. Anyway, the number is 713-807-1794. Mark, do we have a transitional period coming up?
I can do that if you want.
Yeah, let's take a break. Let me read some more of this information and see if our guest is in the studio. We're back, and I'm joined, your host, Charles X. White, and I'm joined at this time with Glenda Kazee of the Houston Area Urban League, and she is a specialist with housing, particularly with that Harvey word. But she can tell you about Rita, she can tell you about Ike, she can tell you about all of them. Glenda Kazee has joined us to give us some information about housing.
Yes, I'm Glenda Kazee with Houston Area Urban League, the Housing Service Manager. And we've been working in, as Charles says, a number of disasters the city's had. Currently, we're working with the floods from 2016 and actively now working with Hurricane Harvey disaster.
Have you
fund.
seen any, how stressed is your system in addressing citizens' needs? Have you seen any things that you can share with the audience about some of the problems that you are solving for the victims?
There are a number of problems that people are having on a recurrent basis for Hurricane Harvey. Among the most are application for FEMA, the idea of having to have a email address is a barrier.
Whoa. If a person does not have an email address, what do they do?
They can set up an email. That were some of the things that we were doing. But definitely for folks, and they don't have that already created, they're already impacted. The problem you're having is that now someone who's trying to recover from the hurricane is having to deal with additional hurdles to get to applying for assistance. And so getting an email address is something that you could do. But again, if this is not something you already had, all of a sudden it's just an extra. The second thing that we saw was that clients sometimes receive text messaging but couldn't get access to that they were sending me information, but somehow they couldn't get connected to receive the letter or the instructions that they were given after they had applied for FEMA. And then when they would, homeowners especially, apply for FEMA, they had homeowners insurance, they had maybe flood insurance, one or the other. They were receiving the immediate letters saying that they were declined due to having insurance. And so this means now they have to get the declarations from insurance companies, appeal the denial based on what the declarations are going to cover within the 60-day limit that they have for an appeal. Many clients, it's the process is just a lot for them to endure at a time that they've been impacted.
What about the lady or the people that we saw on television that we saw the home gutted, destroyed, and they applied for FEMA and were turned down? Do you see any of those clients?
There are clients, again, that's received the denial letter, and then they
No. That's, well, yes.
They applied.
They applied.
And their home was
Right.
devastated.
And the insurance, even if they have insurance, it takes a long time. Those that don't have insurance are denied. And do you see them, and are you able to expedite anything for them?
What we're doing is actually FEMA appeals for folks. We're also working with legal nonprofit agencies that are working in that arena as well for the most difficult cases. And so, yes, we are assisting those clients in the appeals process in packaging that up. It's very much like the foreclosure crisis that homeowners faced when you had to get everything documented in a certain way, correlated in the particular way that your lender wanted to see it in order to expedite your case and get some type of resolution. So basically, it is very similar in that the appeal process is time sensitive. They've got recommendations of specifics that they would like or recommend that you forward in your appeal. And at that point, we're just trying to assist clients in getting that done, making sure it arrives there so that the client can then follow up and get resolution and get some assistance.
So have you cleared 100 people, 1,000 people? What kind of volume do you all face?
Right now, we're looking at, we primarily focus low to moderate income families, moderate income working families in the city and the surrounding area at Houston Area Urban League. And our agenda was to fill through our database, just current database of 10,000 clients from last year and this year on the impact that Harvey has had on their lives. And so that's where we started.
One thing I would add at this point, I was certified as a housing inspector for FEMA during Ike Rita. And what I saw were what I call inequities in the housing inspectors when they went to certain neighborhoods, because the result is that most homeowners or people that were affected by flooding did not know they could appeal what check they got.
Correct.
And if you appeal, if you don't think that you received a right amount of money for damages, not being denied, you got your check, you got a check, you could request an appeal on that, and they will send out another inspector.
Correct.
And I went out on a lot of those cases as follow-ups, and those people that appeal their award. And to me, no, the first inspector did not give them the proper reading so that they could get the right amount of money back.
That is some of the issues that we've seen, primarily seniors, working neighborhoods. An instant is a inspector. This was not from a FEMA inspector, but a homeowner's insurance inspector for a leak in the roof. No, not a leak in the inside of a ceiling. They were told that all it needed was painting, even though there was actual water dripping from the ceiling. They checked the roof. They said the roof was intact, and so that the room simply needed painting, and there was no further investigation needed, even though water was dripping. So there was wind-blown water entering from somewhere underneath the roof that was now dripping on the floor. And they were told by the inspector, we'll just do a paint job and you won't see this anymore.
So now, have you seen any greater need or expanded problems or dealing with Harvey victims versus Ike victims?
Repeated.
Oh, what's your phone number? Let's give the audience your phone number, because in case someone wants to call you. What's your phone number?
281-220-6012.
One more time.
281-220-6012.
Yeah, so what are some differences between Harvey and Ike case filing?
Well, it just seems like there's more repeated.
Repeat meaning?
Flooding, home damage.
Okay, so my home flooded 3 times.
Yes. And so with that being, the health of the house, if not repaired, is going to be in question, especially for working families.
Do you think that there will be areas condemned or houses bought out because of the repeating of being flooded Do you see that in the forecast?
Well, I certainly hope that someone's examining that because if there's no mitigation so that the homes are not continuously being damaged, then it becomes not cost effective. And not only is it a problem for the occupant, but how many times can you pay out your insurance? That's going to be an escalating cost. If you're repeatedly flooding, there's going to be an escalating cost in flood insurance. At some point, working families, one, you're either not going to be able to afford the protection, which is going to make it even worse for you.
So do you have any town meetings coming up that you plan to invite the public in to assist them?
On October 14th, there's going to be a preservation workshop with Southeast Texas School of Law. And it's going to cover both landlord-tenant rights for those living in an apartment affected during the disaster, and also for homeowners, and also looking at the fair housing rights of all individuals impacted.
So who is the main, doing the heavy lifting when it comes to giving citizens information about navigating in the recovery process? Are there stations around the city, or is the city or the county taking the lead to say, this week, we can service you this week on this day at in this part of town at this building? Is it a schedule out?
I know FEMA has its disaster recovery centers open and available throughout the city for persons who are able to come into the centers. And for various other resources, there are various schedules. But I don't know if it's comprehensive, because I haven't been able to find that.
Yeah, so the kind of what I'm driving at it. Where's Central Point? Where is all of this information coming in and going out to the public?
As far as I'm aware of, as of today, there is no central. As central as it is, I would think, would be the disaster recovery centers that has multiple services within the center.
Manned by who? FEMA?
FEMA, SBA.
So it's a...
Right, correct.
So have you seen or heard the city health department moving around and dealing with the environmental impact or contaminants or anything of that sort?
I'm not aware.
What would you suggest to the city leaders to improve? How would they improve the process, either in the mitigation stage or the recovery stage?
I think the city is very effective during the disaster in trying to stabilize folks and being there for them. I think the mitigation is where we need to focus some of our time, because if there is mitigation on the front end, it's going to lessen property loss and lives lost during and after the disaster.
There was a senator on the East Coast, Rodney, I think is his last name. He commissioned a study to say, and if you want to look it up, audience, just look it up under a phrase like, for every $1 in mitigation spent, it saves $4 in recovery. So that's if you look it up, there are several examples and formulas that will show that it's more cost effective to mitigate the threats and the risks than it is to just rebuild, for an example. Like Maryland, this is their third flood since 2015.
Yes.
So it's going to happen again. So what are the mitigation steps? Is it a buyout? Is it levies? Is it what? But to me, it appears that whoever is at the head of the table of wisdom, it's not being used or applied, or it may be demonstrated in a meeting but not applied in the field. But so what are some of the lessons learned at the Urban League from that you see as you're being able to apply to help people now at Harvey, where you may not have had that tool for Rita or Ike?
Well, I think one of the most important things is that immediate contact as soon as possible with folks, because they're traumatized. Nobody's thinking about anything other than trying to figure out what happened to them. Yesterday things were this way, today it can be totally different. And just that fog of just trying to get yourself emotionally together distracts from time that you need, because in the recovery process, everything is time sensitive. From when you can apply for FEMA, when you can appeal, when you can apply for SBA, everything is time sensitive and with a list of recommendations. So if you've been impacted, either you have to have thought about this under some kind of mitigation process, education, whatever, on the front end. Otherwise, you're running behind the time when you get started, because your time has wasted just getting yourself together, just trying to figure out what happened, what do I do? And don't let this be the first time you've been directly impacted. You know, you're dealing with all of those emotions, you know, you're dealing with loss, and you're trying to figure out a plan. And now, okay, what's the plan? How do I recover? Now, who do I go to? And what are those steps? I mean, that's an awful lot. And when you have a time plan already in motion.
Yeah. So the next storm may be next week.
That's true. We're still in hurricane season.
It ends November 31st, hurricane season.
Yes.
So my question now is, but we also know that from some people say the last week in August, but I'm just going to give it from the middle of August to the end of September is the height of
Correct.
the hurricane season that would come to Houston. But they will come in November, they will come in May, not June.
Yes.
So what are your steps from the Urban League to prepare for the next hurricane or earthquake or whatever the disaster might be?
As a HUD-approved housing counseling agency, and we're HUD-approved housing counselors there, all of our programs, all of our contacts, outreach, whatever we're doing, walk-ins, we try to, one, give folks information on how you survive. That means especially seniors, making sure they're in contact with somebody, there's someone they check in with, someone they talk to, someone who helps them, you know, connecting them to the state assistance program, that in case something happens and you have to evacuate, that you at least do that annually so folks will know.
Let me stop you right there. Do you get involved with evacuations any kind of way?
No, we do not.
Okay.
That's why on the front side we try to inform our clients, because 2 months out of the year we have possible flooding, and then 6 months we have possible hurricane. So 8 months out of the year we
Correct.
could have a natural disaster, and the other 4 months there could be man-made.
Well, we have 2 minutes left, and we're going to close out. I really want to thank you and the Urban League for your work in this particular field and the other fields that you serve the Houston community, and do a very good job at that. We will be back next month with Community Views and Solutions. We want to thank Glenda Kizee with the Houston Area Urban League. And I want you to give your number a couple of times more in case someone wants to call you.
If you need any assistance, please give us a call. The number is 281-220-6012. Again, that number is 281-220-6012.
I'm Charles X. White, your host for Community Views and Solutions. We are always ready and able to provide you with some information or some critical thinking ideas that may shake your normal way of thinking sometimes, but that's what we do. We hope that you and your family have survived this particular natural disaster and make your lessons learned more advantageous before the next storm. This is Charles X. White with Community Views and Solutions, signing off. We'll see you next time. Mark, can you take us out?